Hello and welcome back, or just welcome if you're new here. I'm Common Free and today's video is things you might need for your newborn, the crunchy edition. If you're unfamiliar with that terminology, it just means that I don't flow with the mainstream. My quick disclaimer before I jump into the list of things is that in today's video, I'm sharing my experience, I'm sharing my opinion, and this video, despite the title, is not me trying to tell other parents what they do need for their newborn. These videos are for fun. Maybe it stimulates some thoughts, maybe it's interesting for you, maybe it leads to something that you think that you do want to get for your newborn, or maybe you watch it and think, oh no, wow, I definitely don't need that thing. Either way, please just take what serves you and leave what doesn't. My second kind of disclaimer for this video is that I don't think that you need anything for your newborn. As wild as that might seem, I think that your newborn just needs you. They need their mom to be whole and healthy to take care of them. I think anything else that you get for your journey is just something extra. And I hope by saying that, that really helps to put whoever's mind at ease in terms of if you're stressing about what you may or may not need, your baby just needs you. I will make a video on it, but I think you, as a mom, as the person who birthed their baby, I think there's a lot that moms need to support them in that postpartum period and support them in the first 40 days and even thereafter. So I'll make a video on that, but I think your baby just needs you. Also, just by the title and by the fact that I keep saying I'm a little bit crunch, so please consider that if some of the stuff in this video is unusual. All right, so first up, I'm gonna do this in themes. I'm gonna start with the bum. When Elba was born, we did naked skin to skin for the first 24 hours. Yes, that's messy. No, I didn't care that it was messy. Just cleaned it up. We had loads of towels from our home birth and I didn't mind that. I wanted that skin to skin. But after that, we did move to using diapers. So the first thing on my list is cloth diapers. Specifically, my recommendation, I do have cloth diaper videos on my channel. Hey, Scott. My recommendation is fitted and flats. One of my regrets is I emigrated while pregnant and moved to a whole new country. So there are some things that I think if I had more time, I would have done differently, but also now with more experience. So I'm also sharing a bit of things that I might do differently in future or I wish I had done differently with Elba. So my regret with the cloth diapers is I think in hindsight, I would have gone for organic cotton only. The ones that I have great for fit, and that's why I say fitted and flats, because you don't know what size your baby's coming out. They might be chunky thighs or they might be on the skinny side and then get chunky really quickly or stay on the skinny leg side, all being very healthy, but you want a diaper that's gonna fit nicely. And that is fitted and flats in my experience with a cover. My flats, I think, are a cotton blend. So again, in hindsight, I would have gone all natural. No, folding flats is not a major effort. I made a whole video on newborn cloth diapering. It's a very therapeutic, very nice act to do in that first 40 days when you're just bonding with your baby. If you're worried about cost, the secondhand cloth diaper market is awesome. And you can make sure that you clean them really well so you don't have to be worried about the hygiene issue. You can strip them before you use them. All right, second up is cloth wipes, so reusable cloth wipes, and a wipe warmer. I know that loads of people might think that a wipe warmer is a waste of money, and I didn't think that I would be someone who would use a gadget like a wipe warmer. But my experience was, in the beginning, I used water wipes, so they're disposable, but they are compostable. I bought the compostable ones, and they do have minimal ingredients, but they still have more ingredients than just water. And then I realized that on my tiny little newborn, the only thing she didn't like about changing diapers was the cold wipe. And also those wipes led to a very minor wet rash. So then I switched to cloth wipes and you're making them wet. But if they're not nice and warm, then it was still like a bit of discomfort for her in the diaper changes. And diaper changes, because we do elimination communication and because I'm big on nurturing, I want her to have a gentle experience with that. I don't want her to suffer through cold wipes. So I got a wipe warmer, which was great because then I would just prep the wipes and put them in the wipe warmer. And then every time I would wipe, it's literally a reusable cloth. It's just water and wipe. The older she got, the less she cared about whether they're warm or not. As we're going into winter, I'll start using the wipe warmer again. But for the newborn phase, I think it is really gentle to use nice, soft cloth wipes with only water that are warm. I'll link down below the wipe warmer that I use that I think works well for cloth wipes. because I think a lot of them are made for disposable wipes. But if you're going out and about, it is a bit hard to use cloth wipes when you go out. I do sometimes try to go back and forth with it, and then I still use the compostable water wipes, which not 100% like happy about that, but at least they're compostable and at least they have minimal ingredients. And it was the least ingredients that I could find of all the wipes. All right, third up for the bum is whatever you need for elimination communication. On my channel, I've got elimination communication videos. I did use the newborn top hat potty with a cozy and loved using it, but I recognize that it is a bit pricey if you live anywhere other than the US to get it. I did ship it to Canada and I did pay that price and I really liked using it, but if you're not able to find that exact potty, then anything you want to use to potty. In the newborn phase, because I was honoring the first 40 days, I wasn't moving around much, so I didn't take her to the bathroom to potty. I liked having something on my cart next to the bed to potty in that phase. So I do recommend get anything to potty that is going to be close to you. Especially newborn pottying is like quick. And I do recommend using the cozy again to just make it nice and comfortable for their little newborn bum. Along with having something to potty in, I would recommend getting a diaper-free mat. I don't think that you need to get the one from Go Diaper Free. I did obviously get that one when I ordered the top hat potty, but now I use much larger reusable absorbent mats. So I think any type of reusable absorbent mat is good to use for diaper free time. Last item on the bum list, if you're using cloth wipes and cloth diapers, then you don't need a diaper cream or a bum. I didn't have a diaper cream or a bum cream, and then a few weeks into it, I did order some kind of moisturizer to have on hand. What I chose to use is a very pure free-range tallow moisturizer that has flowers infused with it and not essential oils. I very rarely feel the need to use any kind of moisturizer on Elba. I just purchased that to have it on hand. Okay, and then for wet rashes, there was a specific powder that I like to use, but I cannot pronounce the word. It is, I don't even want to try. This is embarrassing. I don't know, like my brain is sticking. So I'm going to put it on the screen. If you know how to pronounce it, please pop that in the comments down below so I know how to pronounce it for future videos. But that is the natural powder that I used for Elba's wet rashes. And again, no essential oils added to it, only infused with flowers. I used two different types because I wanted one downstairs and one upstairs. I will link down below the two that I chose to use. Again, organic, minimal ingredients. Just that powder and some infused flowers. You can also, if you don't want to use anything on a wet rash, just make sure that you dry that area really nicely between every change. And if it does get into the little folds in the neck, then again, just dry it really nicely. I don't think you need a powder, but I did like to use it every now and again. All right, moving away from the bum to sleep. So we breast sleep. It's a term for a specific type of sleeping that is done when you're exclusively breastfeeding. It's a type of bed sharing that, if you remove all risk factors, is deemed the safest natural way to sleep. And you can read all about it in a book that I highly recommend, which is Safe Infant Sleep by James McKenna. I do have a book discussion coming out on that one if you don't want to read the book and you just want to watch that instead. But it's a really, really cool book. I would recommend that you read it. Anyway, I do think that even if the plan is to breast sleep with your infant, I think it's good to have a backup sleeping space for them. In our case, that was a bassinet that can attach to the bed. We never attached it to the bed. And it had wheels, which was awesome because, I mean, we only did this a handful of times, but some days Elba would be lying in the bassinet and we'd roll it to Ian's office when I'm gonna take a bath or I was taking a nap or something, and then she would lie in Ian's office with him in her little bassinet. The other backup sleeping space that we had was the bassinet that goes on the stroller. Depending on which one you buy, you'll need to check whether they are safe for overnight sleep. Elba never slept overnight in any of those things. But that's just a consideration in terms of having some kind of backup, because there are a few things that need to be in place to ensure that the breast sleeping is safe. And for whatever circumstances, if you're not able to create that safe space, you do want a backup sleeping space for your baby. And maybe during the day you want a backup sleeping space, but honestly, most of the time during the day, Elba was sleeping either on us or right next to us. Very seldomly did we use the bassinet. In terms of sleep, there's loads of things that are out there on the market that other people might think that you need. I didn't use any of the sleep gadgets. Elba was never swaddled. We didn't use a swaddle. We didn't buy a swaddle. And that was purposeful. First of all, if you are breast sleeping, it isn't safe to use a swaddle. But secondly, the outlook that I subscribe to says that we want to leave the reflex for them to experience it and almost like grow out of it in their own time. So Elba was never swaddled. We were her swaddles. Also, we didn't use pacifiers. I didn't even use sleep sacks. I did buy them in case I thought that I might want to use them, but we didn't end up using them. And also no noise machines or really anything else to facilitate sleep. Just us. Lots of cuddles, lots of nursing. That was it. Okay, and then moving on to baby containers or seats. So I'm not someone who subscribes to the use of any kind of baby containers. So no bouncy chairs, no like thing to put your baby in to hold them or anything like that. I'm a big advocate for just put them on the floor or put them in your arms. So the same with the swaddle, like no constricting of movement in a particular way. So we didn't have any bouncy chairs or any of that stuff. But after a week, we did get the Snuggle Me organic. Now it is pricey, but there are loads on Facebook Marketplace. And again, I don't think that you need it. What we used it for in the newborn phase is if I wanted to go to the bathroom and Elba went with me to the bathroom, I would put her in that on the floor. If I was doing the laundry, then I would put her in that on the floor. Honestly, I do think that you can just use a blanket or anything else that is portable to put your baby on. So sometimes you can get those mats that fold up and have like a little handle. I think those would work really well. I didn't want to put my newborn on the carpet or on the towels. I only started doing that when she was a little bit older. So I used the Snuggle Me organic instead of just putting her on the floor. According to what I've read, the Snuggle Me organic is not the same as a baby container and it does allow for free movement. It doesn't constrict their movement. But it did kind of keep her where I placed her so that I can do what I'm doing in the bathroom. Now, the only thing I do use it for is if I go to the bathroom. So I don't think that I used it a lot, but it was a useful tool for that activity. So I don't think you need the Snuggle Me organic, but I do think it is very useful to have some kind of portable thing to put your baby on. All right, still on the whole seat thing. I had such a resistance to buying a car seat and a stroller. I want to say I don't know what it is, but that's just a manner of speaking. I know why I was resistant to it, but the point is, of all the things that I research, and I look up things a lot, I do a lot of reading, I'm very intentional about a lot of stuff. I had such a resistance when it came to car seats and a stroller. It was the thing I researched the least. I hated buying it. I put it off until so late. And the only reason that I bought a car seat is because it is a legal requirement if you need to drive somewhere with your baby and because you don't really know if you do need to go somewhere. But I had no intention to drive my newborn anywhere in the first like 6 weeks. But anyway, reluctantly, I did purchase a car seat before Elba was born. And in hindsight, I would have gone for one that had or uses less chemicals. Nonetheless, when it comes to car seats, the one thing that I was adamant about is to get a car seat that stays in the car and not to use a bucket thing that goes on the stroller. The reason for that, again, is the importance of not confining her to a seat when she's learning and the body's developing and growing. And as much as someone will say that they'll get a bucket seat, but they won't use it a lot for their baby to be carried around in, I think you do. Like if you have it and your baby's asleep in the car, you will probably take the seat out if you can take your seat out. And we didn't want that because we wanted to make sure that we lift her up out of the seat every time and she goes from the car seat into our arms or into the carrier rather than being carried around in a car seat or going from the car seat onto the stroller. To get a car seat that stays in your car is definitely not the practical option, but it was very important to me in terms of like how we choose to parent, and I have no regrets about that at all. If I need to do something hands-free, then Elba goes from the car seat into a baby carrier. We also limited the time that she spent in the car, and I still do. I'm very mindful of how much time she spends in the car seat. But the other thing that I will say is we got the car seat that turns, can swivel, and it's one of those things that you wonder, like, is this like a feature that, you know, seems nice but isn't all that nice? I will say I quite like it. It's actually quite useful. It is nice to turn the seat and have it straight ahead for you, to put her in and to take her out. And then while we're speaking about that combination, a stroller, again, major resistance to purchasing in that because I had no intention to stroll anywhere with my baby in a stroller. But I did purchase one, and we did get a fancy one. We got the, I'm really bad at pronouncing things, Uppa Baby, Vista, that one. Mostly we got it because we do hope to have more children. You can use it for like a baby and a toddler. And with that, we didn't go for the bucket, so we had the bassinet, and then from the bassinet, it changes to the seat. I will say that this stroller is quite heavy and quite large, and we really barely used it in the newborn phase. Honestly, we've barely used it even until now. It's mostly an expensive shopping cart, but I'm sure maybe later in our parenting journey, we'll start to use it more. The only times we used it was a handful of times when we went for a walk, but most of the time when we go for a walk, she's in a baby carrier, not in the stroller. And that leads me on to the next thing that I think you need for your newborn, again, is to look into baby carrying. This is one of the things I have a regret about. I do wish that I had looked into baby carrying more in pregnancy rather than to do it when I was in my postpartum phase, because then my mind wasn't really on wanting to learn new things. And by the time I wanted to put her in something, I really didn't have the energy to figure out how to use woven wraps. But for a future baby, I will definitely look into using woven wraps for the newborn phase. What I ended up going with is the Mom Cozy stretchy wrap. It's very easy to figure out because part of it is already like done for you. So if you're looking for a wrap that's very easy to figure out, it meets those points. But what I know now about baby carrying and what I learned through my experience is a stretchy wrap your baby will grow out of very quickly. But it is also very nice for them as a newborn to be very close to your body. So I wouldn't recommend a structured carrier for the newborn phase, even though I now have 2 structured carriers. One of them being the Ergo with a newborn insert and the other one being the Sakura Bloom. I wouldn't use those for a newborn. I think that your newborn's body is very soft and wants to be against us. So I think that a wrap is the best thing to use for the newborn phase, and only when they become a little bit older, when their eyesight is such that they want to start looking at the world, they want to be less like pushed up against you, then I think the structured carriers come nice. And for me, that was around month 4. So up until then, the stretchy wrap was the nice thing. I don't think any baby is really gonna use a stretchy wrap for a long time. Knowing what I know now, I think I will look into using a ring sling and a woven wrap for a future baby. But if you are already at a point where you're like, I don't wanna look into more things, I just want ease, then a stretchy wrap, the Mom Cozy one I got was nice and it was really easy to use. I would highly recommend going on baby carrier Facebook groups. You learn so much from other people's like fit checks, other people's experiences. Super, super useful. I do wish that I had done that in pregnancy and just like slowly accumulated that information. The other thing I will just say about wraps and carriers and so forth is I really recommend making sure you know that you're doing it properly. This is not a judgment on anybody because I was there as well because I didn't look into it in pregnancy. It's very easy to carry your baby in a way that's not the best for their development or maybe not the safest way to carry them. And there are a couple of things you need to consider with that. And I would recommend doing that in pregnancy just to make sure that you've got the basics of carrying down. But again, newborn phase, I recommend against your body with a wrap, not a structured carrier. Structured carriers for later. Right now, our new thing is back carrying. Okay, moving on to feeding. I don't think that I have anything on this list that I think people need. For feeding, Elba is exclusively breastfed. We didn't use any pacifiers. We didn't use any bottles. I think if you're wanting to store some of the leak that you have, then maybe some reusable silicone milk storage things. I have the Haka ones, but really in terms of feeding, I don't think that there's anything if you're going to be breastfeeding. What I will also say with the breastfeeding is that my recommendation is to not mess with the milk supply in the newborn phase. What I mean by that is to not pump in the newborn phase. And also, this is a very unpopular opinion, but I didn't like using the Haka, like the traditional one. Loads of people say that it's a letdown catcher. It's not. It has a suction function. So that means it is pulling milk out of the breast and it is going to stimulate the breast to make more milk. So my recommendation would be leave the milk to regulate just with baby, especially in the newborn phase. In most breastfeeding books and literature that you read, they'll say leave to regulate for the first 6 weeks. Don't use pacifiers, don't use bottles, don't pump, etc. However, in my experience, I would say it was the entire duration of the newborn phase. It took my milk to properly regulate and to not so engorged. Anyway, I can speak about breastfeeding in another video. This is again not me trying to like shove my opinion on anybody. I'm just simply saying, based off of my experience, how I would approach it in the next one and what I learned from this experience with Elba. Okay, moving on from the feeding stuff to clothing. This is such a funny one for me because I think I would have loved for us to just stay naked. I said earlier, we did naked skin to skin for the first 24 hours. And then eventually when I decided, okay, practically I'm going to dress her now, it felt so unnatural to me to do that. But anyway, I did do it nonetheless, and she does wear clothing. Although in the newborn phase, we definitely prioritized a lot of skin to skin time. So my only recommendation with clothing would be they grow out of it really quickly. So in terms of saving money, better for the environment and so forth, I would recommend buying it secondhand or from a consignment store and buy all natural and practical. I definitely wasn't about the cutesy outfits then. I'm also not even now, because most of what I'm doing with Elba is just geared towards the time with her, and I'm changing diapers and pottying a lot of the time, so I wasn't going to go for outfits that are impractical to put on. Even for photos, Elba just pretty much wears this. The one clothing item though I would recommend if you're doing cloth diapers, but even if you're not, is vest extenders. They will make that clothing will fit a whole lot longer on your baby. And if you are using cloth diapers, sometimes the bum is a little bit bulkier than clothing manufacturers are going for because they're making clothing for disposable diapers. So a vest extender just really helps to make sure things fit for a little bit longer. All right, then bath time. For a long time, we didn't bath Alba because your newborn is not dirty. I don't think that it's necessary to bath them, and there is research that shows it's beneficial not to bath them for a while in the beginning. So we just used to wipe her down with a warm cloth if and when necessary. We didn't and still don't own a baby bath. When we did bath her, it was with me in the bath. The main reason for that is to have like one less thing in your house, but also when they're going in water, I think it's nice for them to be with their parents and have their parent holding them, and having that be a whole thing that she's doing with me and not me putting her in water like that. But I mean, that's not a major thing, but if you are planning to bath with your baby, I would recommend just from a safety perspective to get a non-slip thing at the bottom. But even still, Ian or somebody else does take Elba out of the bath. I don't climb out of the bath while holding her. Maybe I'm a little bit extra precautious when it comes to that kind of stuff, but that is what works for us. And then I recommend obviously a nice organic cotton towel. I don't think that you need soap for a newborn. We did not use soap really on Elba, and if I do want to use soap on odd occasions, then I use a pure tallow soap with pretty much nothing in. It doesn't even have infused flowers in. And to wipe them down, I think just a nice organic cotton cloth that is soft against their skin. Okay, moving on to medications, I guess I'll call it. So the only thing I bought in pregnancy that I have used quite a bit is, it's not even medications, is a snot sucker. And I have the Haka one, and I also have the Frida one. I prefer the Haka one because I think it's less single-usey. It's also silicone and not plastic. But I wanted one upstairs and downstairs, so I decided to try the Frida one as well. So I have that one upstairs. We were gifted a pure saline solution. That's not something I would have thought to purchase, but given that we were gifted it, we did use it once or twice. And I think it is quite nice to have on hand. But somebody did tell me that you can just use breast milk if you don't want to use the saline solution, and that works well. I haven't tried that because I don't like really pump and have like breast milk lying around. Then a thermometer. We just have a normal, like my digital thermometer that I use to take my basal body temperature. If and when we wanted to take her temperature, we use that. I do see the appeal of getting one that maybe goes in the ear, is a little bit more accurate, but I haven't purchased one. And if I do feel the need to take her temperature, I just use a normal thermometer. Okay, that's it on the list of medications and things that we have on hand. What I will recommend in this regard is to have mom friends that share your values or share your approach to parenting, because you might get scared. Things might feel like, oh, is this normal? Is this right? Like, what would you do in this situation? So I think the most valuable thing for me has been resources, books, and moms that share my approach that I can ask, send pictures to. And that was just the most helpful thing. Okay, and then I'm gonna end off with 2 final things. Here's something I don't think that you need, which might be a little bit unusual. I don't think that you need a baby monitor. You don't have a baby monitor. And sure, that probably makes things a little bit less practical, but I don't think that I had a baby for it to always be practical. And the main metric that I go for with some of my parenting choices is not how practical something is. So the reason we don't have a baby monitor is because I don't want Elba to be in a room by herself. In terms of safe infant sleep, as per the research that James McKenna did, and because of the priority for nurture, we have decided that Elba will not sleep in a room by herself for at least the first year. So she's never slept in a room by herself. There's always one of us who's with her. So yeah, she isn't left by herself, and I'm not sure at what age we will start to incorporate that, where she might be left to independently play if she wants to play, if the area is safe. Maybe then we'll look into getting a monitor. But aside from me not wanting her in her own room by herself, I think there are other reasons why I wouldn't want a monitor. And when she's older, I think I'm going to want to give her her privacy. Since this video is just about newborn phase, in the newborn phase, we most definitely didn't want to use a monitor. And until now, we don't have a monitor, we don't use a monitor. Elba either goes where we go or we stay where she is. All right, then a final thing that I think is nice to have is a journal. And I think it's nice to journal to your baby, to let them know your experience with them, write letters to them. And I know that that is something that I would have really wanted to see, is what my mom's experience with me was as a baby. Thankfully, she does share that with me, whatever she can remember. But I have a journal where I write letters to Elba of my experience with her and other special things that I want to say to her that she can read later. I do recommend having a journal. And I think that brings me to the end of today's video. Again, I don't think that you need anything. Anything that you get, I hope, just enriches your parenting journey. And I hope that you have the most beautiful bond and special time with your newborn baby. If you think that I forgot something, please pop it in the comments down below so other women watching this can maybe learn from something that was useful for you. Or if you had a completely different experience from me or different thoughts, I'd love to hear them in the comments below. If you like this video, please like this video. And if you like my content and want to continue to see it, please remember to subscribe.